National Advisory Board for Impact Investment is basically a non-profit, and our mandate basically stems from facilitating the impact economy and catalyzing a private sector-driven economy in Zambia. So our key mandate is around working with players in the market, and obviously the number of players that are already doing some excellent works on the market, and our role is to basically play a facilitative role. So how do we work with organization A, B, C, and D to drive an impact agenda? So as a NABII, what we'll do then is bring efforts from across the players in the ecosystem to ensure we are building that narrative as Zambia, so we can then begin to see the fruit of impact investment as a country.
Impact investment is an intervention that's trying to leverage finance to address issues of social concern. Globally, there are a variety of issues of social concern, including environmental issues, which the countries around the world have been grappling with. The key challenge is that the available resources that are being dedicated to address these issues have been found to be inadequate. And this is why they've been thinking around how can we leverage finance and complement the current efforts. So impact investing is basically an intervention which has intention to resolve these social issues of concern, but then at the tail end of it, the investments which are placed or directed towards these social issues do have a financial return. In other words, you make it profitable to resolve these issues.
As a NABII, we've split ourselves into 5 areas of the ecosystem. So we've got the demand side. These are SMEs that are looking for capital investment, they're looking for funding, and they've got excellent ideas that they want to implement to ensure that there's some impact that can be derived in the country. So that's the demand side. We've got the supply side, which is basically these are suppliers of capital. So world over, the people that are coming up and saying, how can I invest money to ensure there's greatest impact? And when they're looking at Zambia, they're looking at what sort of areas can I put my money in that are going to create me the impact and the return and managing the risk. So that's the supplier side, and the players that bring capital into the market. We also have the enablers that either offer financial advice or legal advice to the players on the economy, just to ensure they support the growth of the sector. And there's also the policy side. So what policies do we have that support an impact investment agenda? What regulations are in place to ensure things can actually begin to flow smoothly? So in this case, we're talking about mainly the government, who are basically the one that drive policy, and how do we work with government to ensure then create that enabling environment that will enable the SMEs to operate effectively, that will enable the ecosystem players to operate effectively, that will enable an impact agenda to be built in the country. And lastly, we've got the intermediaries that play a part to facilitate the process in growing an impact economy. So those are the 5 sectors that we have in Zambia. And as a NABII, what we'll then do is then work with all these players. How do we coordinate efforts? How do we work together to ensure we are all driving towards a common agenda? And that agenda is catalyzing an impact economy in the country. The UN is driving an agenda to reach the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. And these are around issues of climate change, having no poverty, and decent work and economic growth, and clean water and sanitation. So all those goals are supposed to be driven by each and every economy, try and sort of like get those levels improved. And so in terms of what we do as a NABII, we obviously the GSG for impact, the Global Steering Group for Impact Investment, is supporting that mandate of the UN. And we as a nation also pick that mandate in our country, and we sort of like try to catalyze that agenda so that there can be resourcing that can drive the improvements in the SDGs that are being pushed by the UN.
In what way is impact investment different from the other investment models? We're talking about traditional investing. We're talking about socially responsible investing. We're talking about what environmental and social and governance, which is like sustainable investing, grants and so on. Impact investment has the following unique characteristics which differentiate it from those other types of investors. Firstly, in terms of the financial goals, the impact investor is ready to accept a lower rate of financial return. Okay? The traditional investor, the socially responsible investor, and the others, well, of course, with the exception of the grant, like philanthropies, they would like to maximize financial returns on their investment. There are no two ways about it, because they want to make that money. It must be competitive, the maximum they can get offered by the market for the shareholders or the contributors of the capital. But impact investments are ready to accept a lower rate of return because they know that in trying to provide those different benefits, social benefit, planet benefit, there are costs involved. So the financial rate of return on the investment for impact investors, it can be below what they call concessional, like for instance, development banks and so on, to something which is slightly lower than the market maximum that, say, a traditional investor would want. So that's number one. Number two, impact investors have this deliberate intention to set these people and planet objectives in addition to the financial objectives. In other words, they pursue what you might call a triple bottom line: achieve social impact, to achieve planet impact or environmental impact, in addition to the third one, or the more traditional one, which is financial impact. The other investors, it's mostly financial. If it's on the other aspects, they'll probably won't set it as a deliberate target, but they'll look into it in screening where to invest. The third one is measurability. The impact investor will design key performance indicators, come up with the metrics for those indicators, and set targets which will then be used to measure the performance of the investment in attaining those three objectives. This is not done by the other investors. The last one, the impact investor deliberately indicate that they will disclose the way they are performing in meeting those impact objectives. They will also subject themselves to an independent verification.
Well, like the word implies, impact is that outcome which is wide-ranging, cross-cutting, and all-embracing. What do I mean by that? Well, we've seen investments over the years. We've seen investors come and go, investments in agriculture, investments in mining, investments in tourism, in financial services, and so on and so forth. But one may ask, what has been the impact? What is there to show that several $1 million has gone into this area or that area? Perhaps now we should reflect and ask for more. And this is where impact comes in. So if we are going to engage in impact investing, then it means we have to look at the outcomes that are long surviving in the communities and in the environment in which we live. I'll give you an example. If we are going to have impact investing in agriculture, then what we are looking for is not only increased yields, profitability for the investor, we are also looking for the effects on employment. We are looking at the effects on climate change, on the environment. We are also looking on the effects of the sustainability factors in that environment. What are those sustainability factors that will subsist long after the investment has matured and has moved on? So impact is a loaded word because at the end of the day we want real long-lasting engagement between capital and the environment. So that's really what we are talking about.
Well, the genesis of the impact investment as we know it now lies in the Forum for Social Impact Investment, which was held in 2013 when the UK government was chairing the G8. When it was president of the G8, ahead of the G8 summit in 2013, the UK government hosted the Forum on Social Impact Investment. That was really the foundation. The whole theme was an acknowledgement that the resources available right now, which are dedicated to try and resolve these social issues, was not adequate. So effectively, at this forum, the Social Impact Investment Task Force was constituted to lay the agenda for tackling this. In 2015, the task force was transformed to become what we now call the Global Steering Group on Impact Investment. So basically the genesis is that the foundation is the need to address these social issues of concern to everyone. How do we complement the efforts of the traditional institutions like government, charities, philanthropies, who have been doing a commendable work, but their resource base is just not enough. Government's fiscal space is quite limited. So we are looking at harnessing the finance from the private sector to intervene, but to intervene in a manner that does not compromise on the return on investments that they enjoy in the other ventures. In Zambia, the task force was set up in 2018 December with that mandate, and there were three key deliverables or conditions precedent to getting on board. One, the task force had to facilitate the conduct of a mapping of the impact investing ecosystem. So in effect, the mapping is, for lack of a better word, you are doing a SWOT analysis. You are looking at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in the ecosystem around the 5 pillars. Once you establish those, the mapping now informs the development of a strategic plan, because you understand the strengths and the weaknesses, the opportunities and threats of your ecosystem. You are now able to prioritize what you need to do to fill the gaps, which you consolidate in a strategic plan, and then on the basis of this strategic plan, the next step is that you make a pitch in front of the board of trustees of the Global Steering Group on Impact Investment. This process can take up to at least a year. In Zambia, we took effectively about 11 months. We became a task force in December 2018, and in October 2019 we made the pitch, and in November we were onboarded as a national advisory board. So that's basically the process that you follow to come to getting to be